Hello, Pokemon fans. It's time for some Pokemon nostalgia. I hope you're ready because it's mat time! Hello, Generation Millennium. I'm your host, Jeff Romanus. And today, if you couldn't tell from the little introduction there, we are going through Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee for our discussion podcast today. Also slash review, if you want to go that route. And while these games may have been released back in 2018, November-ish, I actually did not buy those games back at the time because I was a little financially low at the time, so I had to wait until around June 2019 or so before I got the Let's Go games. But I saw lots of, I would say spoilers per se, but lots of videos, people going over the games, and there are a lot of mixed reviews about this because these games are meant for a younger audience, which I think some people keep forgetting. But all the same, these games were created as pretty much a remake of Pokemon Yellow, but also to capitalize on Pokemon Go's popularity, which had just released about 2 years prior. And since a lot of Pokemon fans who were veterans or just Gen 1 nostalgic fans and whatnot who played Red, Blue, and Yellow on the original Game Boy, Pokemon Go essentially just brought those fans back. But those with the Pokemon Go mechanics of just simply chucking a Pokeball at a Pokemon in somewhat real life-ish. And apparently Nintendo and Game Freak want to capitalize on the Niantic's success at that time, so Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were created to capture that nostalgia. And oh boy, these games, well, they're not terrible, but they're not, Personally, I think I give them 7.5 out of 10. But that's just my perspective, especially since this is the third Kanto Pokemon game that's created. The first one's, of course, being Red, Blue, and Yellow, or Red and Green if you're in Japan, followed by Fire and Leaf Green, created for the Game Boy Advance, which is an entire mess in itself. So, yeah, people are actually getting a little tired of all the Kanto representation because, there's so much Kanto stuff going on with Mega Evolutions going on, whatnot, in Generation 6 and X and Y. So much Kanto representation, like the Sun Forest, the fact that all three Kanto stars had Megas, and the fact you even got gifted one of the Kanto starters, before you got the second gym badge. And then with the Alolan forms introduced in Gen 7, Sun and Moon. Just so much Kanto representation just when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were announced. People were excited for the first Pokemon RPG on Nintendo Switch. It's going to be a Kanto game, but at the same time, it was met with lots of mixed bag because, like I said, this was made to capitalize on Pokemon Go in order to bring in either younger or new players who play Pokemon Go into the main series. But for those of us who are veterans who have still been staying around with Pokemon, this was the whole fact that the Pokemon Go catching mechanic being put into a mainline Pokemon game. This just brought a lot of nervousness, to put it bluntly, because me being visually impaired, I am not good at Pokemon Go whatsoever. Even now, let's see, it's been almost over 5 years now since Pokemon Go came out, almost coming into 6 years. And I'm still my trainer level is still 39. I haven't hit 40 yet. That just goes to show you just how little I play Pokemon Go and not how much I'm just not crazy about it. But nostalgia or no, veteran or no, the Let's Go games, these are still fun games, in which the basic gameplay story is still basically the same. However, there are changes, mostly when it comes to how things are set up, in which the first things that should be noted is after you leave your house and you go into the tall grass, Professor Oak gets assaulted by, well, not assaulted, but he essentially encounters or gets attacked by a wild Pikachu or a wild Eevee, depending on which version you're playing. And that's essentially just acts as the catching tutorial right then and there, in which the capture rate on that Pikachu or Eevee that you face, depending on your version, it has 100% catch rate. So even if you mess up the catching simulator somehow, like, the circle just comes in closer to the Pokemon, and the closer you get, and when you throw the Pokeball, you can either get a good, great, or excellent throw. And of course you want to aim for the excellent throws because that's how you gain the most amount of experience and prizes later on. But this acts as the biggest change to the game because, well, there are no wild Pokemon battles. All the battles that you encounter will be all Pokemon found in the overworld. And let's see, what else can I... Oh yeah, y'all see on screen right there, there's Blue. So he's not your rival anymore. Instead, you have a new rival, which you can name him anything you want, which is kind of a sad thing because then Professor Oak doesn't make that joke about he somehow can't remember his own grandson's name. Although he does make that joke later on in the game, which is kind of funny because Blue calls Professor Oak out and he's like, "Grandpa." No one finds that joke funny. But the fact that they're just capitalizing on nostalgia, it's just fun nonsense throughout the majority of the game, which is good and bad at the same time. But the rival, like your original Blue rival, he was like always one step ahead of you. He was cocky, arrogant. He's been studying Pokemon for like majority of his childhood. He had reason to be arrogant and full of himself. Your new rival, on the other hand, not so much. He's boring. Like if you thought Hop from Pokemon Sword and Shield was terrible in terms of character development, your rival in this game has like zero character development. Although he does recruit the baby Cubone who lost his mother in Lavender Town. He does recruit that Cubone to his team, so that's some kindness right there on his part. But anyways, when speaking of your rival, like, nostalgia is one thing, but I guess it's a good thing since this game's directed towards a younger kid-like audience. Like, they did not show that scene from Pokemon Yellow in which when you get to Professor Oak's laboratory, like when you meet your rival for the first time, well, not, was that the first time? Well, I mean, essentially you're supposed to go up to the desk, and in the original Pokemon Yellow, there's an Eevee on that desk. But when you go to pick it up, Blue literally runs at you and shoves you out of the way and takes the Pokeball for himself. Like, wow, what a jerk. But then because Professor Oak met that Pikachu, he caught it earlier, he gives that to you, and that's your starter. That scenario does not occur in the Let's Go games. Instead, you still encounter the Pikachu or Eevee in the tall grass where Professor Oak does, like he does in Yellow, but then you catch it as part of the tutorial simulator. And then you go back to the laboratory, and instead the Pokeball you meet on the desk is the one that meets it contains your partner Pokemon, Pikachu and Eevee, and then your rival gets the other Pokemon opposite to your version. So, compared to how it was set up in Pokemon Yellow, I guess it doesn't make that much sense in that sense, but yeah, since your rival has an Eevee in the original Pokemon Yellow, that's why your rival has it in Pokemon in the Let's Go games, and then it's just vice versa. If you decide to play Let's Go Eevee, your rival gets a Pikachu instead. And surprisingly enough, depending on how well you do throughout the game, your rival will evolve his Eevee into one of the different evolutions. Apparently, since I was literally like trashing him, like destroying his team, I guess that's why he evolved into Jolteon. I don't know the context of how to force him to have either a Vaporeon or Flareon, but it's not that big of a detriment. But since there are no wild encounters, you're probably wondering, well, I mean, there are wild battles. Wait, nah, I'm confusing myself and probably you, the audience. There are wild encounters with wild Pokemon, but you do not battle them. Like I said, these are like Pokemon Go. You encounter the Pokemon, you see them, and you have to catch them. In which you have to wait for the circle to go around the Pokemon. And apparently, I don't know the different colors, but also the circle rings that surround the Pokemon. If it's red, that means the Pokeball you're using either has a low chance of capturing, or the Pokemon itself is just hard to capture. And your main goal is to make it as easy as possible, in which, of course, you have the standard Pokeballs, Great Balls, and Ultra Balls. Unfortunately, besides the Master Ball and Premier Balls, these are the only Pokeballs available in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. You do not get access to any of the other crazy Pokeballs you're probably used to using while playing the other Pokemon games like Net Balls, Nest Balls, Timer Balls, Dust Balls. Nope, none of those are in Let's Go. The best special Pokeball you can get is a Premier Ball, which is just a reskin of a basic Pokeball. So if you ever come across a shiny Pokemon, just use Premier Balls on them just to give them a nice look. And yes, shiny Pokemon are in the Let's Go games, and what makes this even more awesome is the fact that you can encounter said shiny Pokemon. You can actually see their sprites in the overworld now. So if you ever shiny hunted the Pokemon in these games, you can see their shiny sprites when they're in the wild. So that's a nice touch that Game Freak and Nintendo added. But in addition, wild battles, when you come across those Pokemon, they can actually flee from you. Like, they have two different animations. The first animation that they show, like, if they, like, shout at you and they, like, flail around, but then you see the catch circle disappear for, like, a second or two. If you try to throw a Pokeball at them, it'll just fail at that point in time. So you have to wait for them to calm down before you can wait for the capture circle to slowly, like, fill in again before you try catching them again. And you can also make the captures a little bit easier on yourself by using a variety of berries you can find throughout the game. Raspberries make Pokemon easier to catch, and then Nat berries make the Pokemon less likely to do their shiny animation at you. And Pinap berries increase the odds of you earning rewards at the end of the battle. But then if the Pokemon does a different kind of cry, I mean, the cry sounds the same, but the animation is different. This is a sign that they are about to flee from the battle. Yes, these wild Pokemon can flee from you. So if that's the case, then you need to either hurry up and do the capture, or just flee from the Pokemon yourself. Because similar to past Pokemon games, there are things called chaining, in which you can create catch combos in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So say you're on Route 1, you come across a Pidgey, you can create a capture chain of Pidgeys. But only Pidgey. If you catch a different Pokemon, like say a Rattata, you break your catch combo. Or if the wild Pokemon runs from you, that also breaks your catch combo. So you want to be careful of that. But when you do catch a Pokemon, like I said, you earn a variety of things. First of all, depending on how well you did on the capture, whether you did not catch the Pokemon within the capture circle, therefore you did not get a good, great, or excellent throw, or if it was not the first Pokeball you threw, therefore the Pokemon maybe broke out the Pokeball, or maybe you missed it. And not to mention if the Pokemon either had a size variation, yes, there are size variations, there are normal size, small size, and large size Pokemon. All these different factors can multiply the amount of experience you gain from these battles. Yes, just like past games, ever since the 6th generation, whenever you catch a Pokemon, you now gain experience points. However, in the Let's Go games, catching Pokemon in the wild, this is the majority of the way that you will be gaining a ton of experience points. But also, amongst the experience points, you also earn rewards from these battles. And the rewards, they generally appear as you build more of a catch combo. Like by the time you earn a catch combo of 11 or higher, you start earning more rewards. And these rewards are dependent upon the Pokemon you're catching. Like, for those of you who may remember from the standard Pokemon games, effort values or EVs. Like, for instance, if you were to catch, like, say, a Geodude, they have high defense stats, so therefore you get defense EVs. Or if you were to capture, say, a Pidgey, they have high speed, so you get speed EVs. The EV system is no longer present in the Let's Go games. Instead, you have something known as AVs, or awakening values. And these candies that you'd be acquiring from Pokemon essentially increase the AVs. And your Pokemon also gain 1 random AV point each time they level up. So the different candies you can earn as prizes are health candies, which increase your HP AVs, mighty candy, which increase the attack, tough candies, which increase defense, smart candies increase special attack, courage candies increase special defense, and quick candies increase the speed. However, if you get a very high catch combo, you can start acquiring what are known as species-specific candies. Like, for example, if you were to chain a bunch of Pidgeys, you could eventually get a bunch of Pidgey candy. These are much rarer to obtain, but they're also the more superior candies because if you were to use all the other candies I mentioned, they only increase your Pokemon's AV in that one stat by 1 point. But the species candies increase all AVs simultaneously by 1 point. And every Pokemon can have a maximum of 200 AVs for each stat. Meaning that every single stat can be increased by 200 points. And since IVs are still a factor, you can have a max IV Pokemon, give it 200 AVs, get it level 100, and you would have an extremely buff Pokemon ready to go. And yes, you can literally start AV training as soon as you start the game. You just need a bunch of Pokeballs. And catch multipliers can also become even higher if you use Joy-Cons. Well, I should probably mention this now. When you control the game, if you're playing in docked mode on the TV, you are forced to play with the Joy-Con. In which you can only use one Joy-Con to control the game around. The controls for Let's Go are pretty basic. However, if you can use your second Joy-Con to call in a support character, this character just appears on screen and he does virtually nothing. However, if you go into trainer battles, you can literally turn the battle into 2 versus 1, which is so unfair, but this means you can just let maybe a family member join in for fun, and they'll take control of the second Pokemon available in your party, so you can build your team accordingly in that way. But also, when you battle against wild Pokemon, you can have a second trainer at the ready, and you can throw 2 Pokeballs simultaneously at the same time, which will also add to the catch multiplier, which will then increase the amount of experience you earn by quite a lot more. But of course, this uses a second Pokeball in your inventory, so this means you'll have to keep an eye on how many Pokeballs you have, because, like I said, catching Pokemon in the wild, this is how you'll gain a majority of this experience in these games. But since that's how things work, if you were to battle against trainers, they don't give as much experience as wild Pokemon do, which does make sense since the game is incentivizing you to go against wild Pokemon now. But trainers, they do still give you money at the end of each battle, and they also give you free Pokeballs, so that's something that's rather nice. But the Pokeballs themselves, when you go to the Pokemarts, they are now much cheaper. Like, I think the standard Pokeballs are only 100, I think Great Balls are like 300, and Ultra Balls are 500, which is quite a bit cheaper than how they are in other games. But it does make sense considering that you'll be needing to buy a bunch of these things in order to catch all the Pokemon you need. But if you do catch combos, you're probably thinking like, well, what if I got to catch combo like 100 Pokemon? What am I gonna do with all these extra Pokemon in my PC box? Which is something I should know about the PC box. I forget which game they started in which you can like open the PC box and like use it anywhere. The Let's Go game adopts that particular mentality, in which you can literally, you just go into your Pokemon box and you can open it from anywhere you want, which means you can switch out the Pokemon in your party with those in your PC box anytime you want. However, any damage they have sustained will still be there, so you still have to go to the Pokemon centers to heal them, so keep that in mind. But this means you can literally just change your team up on the fly, anytime, anywhere. Even in the Elite Four, I think, so that's a little broken. But the main thing is you go to the PC box and then you need to select the option of Send to the Professor. This is essentially just releasing the Pokemon, so be careful about that. Although the game does warn you if you accidentally choose to select a shiny Pokemon to release. So it warns you, like, are you sure you want to send this Pokemon to the Professor? So it's a nice check in the game, which other games had that check. But the fact that they do that Let's Go game is nice, and you can release up to 30 Pokemon at a time for each run through. And each time you send Pokemon to the Professor, you get rewarded with candies. So say you send like 30 Pidgey, you get like a bunch of like quick candies, a couple of other candies. I forgot to mention that the candies you earn, they come in 3 tiers. There's the regular ones, the large ones, and the extra large. And the majority of the time when you're grinding wild Pokemon for candies, you'll be getting the regular and large ones. The extra large are the rare ones in which you don't get them as often, but they're still necessary, in which the large candies can only be used on Pokemon on level 30, and the extra large can only be used on Pokemon level 60. Whereas the species candies can be used on Pokemon of any level, which is why they're also a superior choice. Like, for example, you could take like a level 5 Nidoran, bring it to battle, but since it has 200 AVs in all its stats because you gave it a bunch of Nidoran candies, you can pretty much just take on like the Elite Four at that level. And I am not kidding on that. That's how broken AVs are. Although, speaking of moves and whatnot, because this is a remake of Pokemon Yellow, the Pokemon movesets, they're not that great. I mean, this is... I'd like to say Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are like Generation 7.5 games because they released after the Generation 7, but before like Pokemon Sword and Shield came out. So it's kind of like in the middle. So they did update the games, like some Pokemon like Clefairy and Jigglypuff, they now have their Fairy typings on them. Magnemite has the Steel typing. And of course this means their movesets get updated, like the Magnemite line can now learn like Flash Cannon. The Clefairy line can learn like Moon Blast. Things like that. And the TMs, I think they changed some of them up, and they also added up to like 10 extras. So you can still earn TMs like Sludge Bomb or Helping Hand I think is also a TM, although it's only useful if you're using the co-op feature with the second Joy-Con, so it's not that big of a deal, but TMs are still in the game too, has a nice little thing to note. In which you can earn some of them from new NPCs you can find around. These are like called coach trainers you can find on almost every route in the game. Their Pokemon are a little bit stronger than the other trainers in the area, so they may require a little bit of preparation if you want to go to these battles. And generally their Pokemon are specialized around the move. See you later. I got distracted by a Discord message. And let's see, what else have I talked about? Oh yeah. And since these are based off of Gen 1, I should also note that abilities and health items are no longer present. Like I think I mentioned something about Jolteon and Giovanni's Rhyhorn earlier from the Pokemon Origins spin-off anime. But with the AV system and lack of health items and abilities, that can explain that particular scenario, how Giovanni's Rhyhorn took out Red's Jolteon in a single Thunderbolt. But also, because you find Pokemon in the overworld, and then, but the addition of the Go Park, which is how you can transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Let's Go, but that's in this, where the Safari Zone is supposed to be in Fuchsia City. And because of this, a bunch of other wild Pokemon can now be found, well, just scattered all over the Kanto region. Some of their locations are actually very reminiscent to what they did with Pokemon Gold and Silver, because that game also lacked a Safari Zone, so they just scattered some of the Kanto Pokemon all over the place. So, for example, you can find like Kangaskhan Rock Tunnel, although it has like a 1% cap, not a percent, 1% encounter rate, or spawn rate. And then on Route 15, I believe it is, you can find like Pinsir or Scyther depending on what version of the game you're playing. But also a lot of other Pokemon have changed locations, like on Route 1, you can find Oddish in Let's Go Pikachu, or Bellsprouts if you're playing Let's Go Eevee. Which is rather convenient that they put them there, because by the time you get to the first gym, one thing they change is that when you get to each gym, they have like requirements for you to enter the gym. Like if you enter Brock's gym, he will require you to show him a Pokemon that's super effective against his Rock-type Pokemon. So if you didn't, so you need to show him most likely a Grass type. In which you could, one of the major changes is something called Special Spawns, which special Pokemon can appear in certain locations. And the first one you can encounter is Bulbasaur in the Viridian Forest. Yeah, you can capture the Camp starters in the wild too. And while they can be received as gifts Pokemon throughout the course of the game, like you could in Pokemon Yellow, since this is a Yellow remake technically, not a Red and Blue remake, a Yellow remake. Bulbasaur can be found in Sterling City, and into the north there, I think it's like Route 25, 24, somewhere around there. You can find a guy with a Charmander, and then when you get down to the Vermilion City, you can find an Officer Jenny, I believe is who it is, who has a Squirtle. But in order to receive these gift cancel starters, you need to actually catch a specific number of Pokemon before those NPCs think you're worthy enough of a trainer to receive these gift Pokemon. So keep that in mind, because the game will keep track of how many Pokemon you catch. And also, as soon as possible, you actually want to capture and evolve as many Pokemon as you can, at least 30, because by the time you get to Vermilion City and you head over to the route to the right, I think that's Route 11, you can enter the house there, which connects to the next route, which has a Snorlax blocking the path, but inside that house. On the second floor, you can find a Professor Oak's aide. He will give you the IV judge function. So the fact you can earn it like before you have the third gym badge is also a nice addition to these games. But also another feature is that wild Pokemon, since you can see them in the overworld now, their models are like built to scale. Like if you were to encounter like an Onix, like say in Mount Moon, I mean that's a rare chance to occur, but it is possible. Or if you go to Rock Tunnel, you can find lots of Onix there. Their models are to scale, which is pretty impressive to see a giant Onix just towering over you. That is like both cool and intimidating at the same time. But also, wild Pokemon, you can also follow. Their models can follow you around now, and you can also ride on certain Pokemon as well. Which is a nice feature because then you can maybe like hop on top of an Arcanine and then use it to like run around the region, because there is no bike in these games. So running around can take a little while and can be a little bit slow. So having access to ride Pokemon can make the journey a little bit faster. But regardless of how much time you decide to take on playing these games, one thing that's still awesome is the Pokemon soundtrack. And while they may be remastered, orchestrated versions of the original Pokemon soundtrack, they sound amazing. Although the Pokemon cries themselves, only Pikachu and Eevee have like their anime-like cries. All the other Pokemon, they essentially just have like their remastered versions of their cries. Like from Generation 6, not only did all Pokemon like models and sprites get like remastered to a degree, but their cries also got like updated, so they no longer sound like scratchy, ear-piercing annoyances. Like they still sound similar to their original 8-bit sounds, I guess, but they're updated, so that's something as well. But I did mention about the Joy-Cons earlier and how you control them. Well, there's an additional accessory that came out with the Let's Go games known as the Pokeball Plus, which, well, it literally just looks like a Pokeball, but it also works as a controller. And whenever you got this free controller, it also came with a Mew that you can literally download straight into your game as soon as like, I think you can access it like as soon as like you like deliver the Oaks parcel back to Professor Oak and you're about to leave the town and you get like the town map from your rival sister. Yeah, at that point you can pretty much access like trading functionalities, mystery gifts, and also connect your Pokeball Plus to your game, in which you can either take your Pokemon out for a stroll, which not only gives your Pokemon a huge boost in experience points if you decide to walk around with it for a long period of time, but also you can also earn the species candies through that way. So it's a nice way to earn candies for some of the more rare Pokemon that you cannot really farm, like the legendary birds and Mewtwo. Or maybe even the fossil Pokemon if you don't want to go through that hassle. But the main stakes of this game are still essentially the same. You want to complete the Pokedex, and between Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the version exclusives aren't really all that high. Like the Oddish and Bellsprout lines are a version exclusive. Sandshrew and Ekans are another pair. I think Vulpix and Growlithe are another. Meowth and Meowth is paired with another Pokemon. I forget what it is. Grimer and Coughing are version exclusive. I don't know if that's how it was in the originals. But another thing that I just remember is like, you know how I mentioned how people are sick of the Gen 1 Pokemon nostalgia back in Generation 7 with the Alolan forms? Well, guess what? You can actually get the Alolan forms in these games. So throughout various Pokemon centers throughout the game, you can find a bunch of NPCs who will ask you if you want to trade them your Kanto Pokemon. They'll give you the Alolan versions. Like, I think Cerulean City, you can find a guy who will trade you Alolan Rattata. The Lavender Town Center, I think, has a guy who will trade you for the Alolan Geodude. In Celadon City, Alolan Sandshrew and Pikachu, and Alolan Vulpix and Eevee. On Cinnabar Island, I think the guy there trades you either Alolan Meowth and Eevee or Alolan Grimer in Pikachu. Fuchsia City trades for Alolan Marowak, at the Indigo Plateau, you can trade for Alolan Exeggutor. There's Alolan Diglett somewhere? Is that Vermilion City? Doesn't make sense considering Diglett's cave is right next door. And there could be more that I'm missing or just forgetting about, but that's pretty much like the gist of it. Oh yes, Saffron City has Alolan Raichu. And just like so many others, yes, these Alolan Pokemon can also be shiny hunted if you want to go for that, although I do not believe the Shiny Charm has any effect on these trades, so it'll be full odds trades and you just have to hope that 1 in 4,096 chance is in your favor. But speaking of Shiny Charm, once again, just like ever since Generation 5, Black 2, White 2, if you complete the Pokédex, not including Mew, Meltan, or Melmetal, therefore just 150 Pokemon, complete a Pokédex, you can earn the Shiny Charm from the game director. And also you can battle Morimoto in the corner. I think he just gives you a bunch of PP maxes when you defeat him, but he has a high level team, so be careful of that. But beyond that, the majority of the game is pretty much the same as the original game with a couple extra things, like if you go to the Celadon Team Rocket Secret Hideout there, like there's a little segment in which your Pikachu and Eevee have a little mini game in which you have to like track down like a card key, because in these games the Team Rocket grunt, rather than just dropping it on the ground and you pick it up, he literally tosses it into the air vents, so your partner Pokemon has to go after it. So that was a pretty nice and cute segment. Oh yeah, speaking of your partner Pokemon, they take care of all the 8 gems in this game, so like Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, your partner Pokemon takes care of all of that. So it's like a mixture of what happens in the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl games, in which Pokemon use the Poketch, or the Pokéride feature from the Alola games. Your partner Pokemon take care of the 8 gems for you, so that's a nice touch. And let's see, main game, story, catching Pokemon, leveling up. So when you get to the post game, after you become champion, if there's one thing that opens up is the fact that Pokemon start appearing in the sky, so you can start hunting for like things like Charizard and Dragonites in the sky. That's a thing, so you can even shiny hunt those if you still want. But another thing that opens up is also the Cerulean Cave back in Cerulean City, which is how, of course, you can go in and capture Mewtwo. And they actually cut down the Cerulean Cave a bit because I think it only has like 2 floors, so navigating is pretty easy. But the second floor is the main place you want to go because you can find a bunch of items here. Like, this is also where you can get more of the fossils. Like, for example, in Mount Moon, you chose a Dome fossil, and then the Fossil Manic would take the Helix fossil. You can get more Dome or even the Helix fossil. They are not version exclusive. You can find them on the second floor. It's rare, but it's still possible. Also, the old Amber can be found there as well. A bunch of glistening spots on this floor. There's also a chance of a Master Ball appearing, so you can also try to farm for those as well. Along with a bunch of golden berries. Like I mentioned earlier, you can get a bunch of berries. They also come in 3, just like the candies, they come in 3 forms. There's the basic forms, the silver forms, and then there's the golden forms. The silver ones can actually be found on the, what was it, Route 17? What used to be the bicycle path. Well, since you don't have a bicycle, they just changed that to a regular route now. But there are a bunch of berry bushes all over that route, so you can just run up and down the route as many times as you want, and then just collect as many berries as you can find. Which is essentially how you're going to farm for berries here in the Let's Go games. Because unfortunately, since there are no held items, you cannot just trade over items from one game to another, so all the grinding in these games is done the old-fashioned way, just find them in the game. But also rare candies can also be acquired by going to certain spots in the game. Like I think there's one on the route above Vermilion City next to the Saffron City gate. I think you can find a rare candy there every single day. Heart scales are required to teach your Pokemon old moves that they may have forgotten. The move Relearner is also an Indigo Plateau. And heart scales can be farmed in the Sea of Foam Islands. So there's also that. But also in post-game, you can also come across what are known as the Master Trainers. These guys are literally, as their title suggests, these guys are Master Trainers who all specialize in a single Pokemon, like see, the Bulbasaur Master Trainer, Ivysaur Master Trainer, Venusaur Master Trainer. all the way up to the legendary Pokemon. And you can literally battle these guys, but be warned, they have high IVs on their Pokemon, they're high leveled, and they also have high AVs in their stats. So these guys can be pretty irritating to take down, although the majority of them can be cheesed by using a combination of Toxic, Substitute, and Protect. Although since that doesn't work on everything, you might have to just level up Pokemon the old-fashioned way and take them down, because for basic Pokemon like the Bulbasaur line, Charmander line, Squirtle line, they're Pokemon level 65, whereas their high evolutions like Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard are probably being like level 75. So you have to level up your Pokemon accordingly to take these guys on. And when you defeat them, you earn the Master Trainer title for those specific Pokemon. And yes, this does include legendaries, although you don't have to battle for those. So if you go to like the Cinnabar Pokemon Mansion, the basement, you can find a let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 8 NPCs down there. These Master Trainers, by the way, only appear in post game, so you have to become champion first. Once you do, you'll find literally 153 new NPCs scattered across your region. Yeah, that's pretty mind-boggling. But those 8 trainers in the Cinnabar Mansion basement, these are for Ditto, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Mewtwo, Mew, Meltan, and Melmetal. I mentioned the Go Park earlier in Fuchsia City. You can use it to transfer Meltan and Melmetal from your Pokemon from your Pokemon Go account on your phone to your Let's Go account on your Switch. So that's how you get Meltan and Melmetal into these games. But then when you talk to these 8 NPCs, rather than battling them, you just have to show them one of those 8 Pokemon of having a high CP value. For the legendary Pokemon, I think they have to be like 7,000 or 8,000 CP or higher. Whereas the others, I think, have to be like 6,000. So on the safe side, just get your Pokemon to be 7,500 CP or higher for the most part. Mostly, if you're getting Pokemon for high CP, you just need to give them a bunch of awakening values in order to get their CP up really fast. So that's one thing to take care of. But then, once you actually defeat 6 Master Trainers, a new trainer will appear. Like he's like hiding behind a pillar to the left of the Indigo Plateau. You can battle against Red. And then, since Giovanni also disappears once you defeat him at Viridian City Gym, you're probably wondering, well, what's going to happen to the gym? Because Gym Leader rematches are a thing in the post game as well now. So who takes over at the Viridian City Gym? Well, it's none other than Blue. And then also there's a trainer in Cerulean Cave. Excuse me there. In the Cerulean Cave, after you catch Mewtwo, when you leave the cave, you'll find a rival there, and he'll tell you that someone else went into the cave looking for Mewtwo as well. So when you go back into the cave and then you go back to where Mewtwo was, you'll find a third NPC. So for those of you who read the Pokemon Adventures manga, you know about Red and Blue, but there's one more character from that trio that's missing. That's right, Green makes her debut and is now canon. Although technically if you're reading the Japanese version, then Green and Blue's names are reversed, but since we're going international English here, we're going to deal with Green, who is essentially based off of like her character model is based off like the last from the original Gen 1 games. But then I guess they decided to make her an actual character in the manga. And what makes these trainers even cooler is that their teams are very reminiscent of their actual manga counterparts. Like Red, in the Pokemon Origins anime, he has a Charizard. Nope, that is Blue's job in these games. Instead, Red has a Venusaur and Blue has a Blastoise. But one thing I also didn't mention is that Mega Evolution is also in these games, but they're but they're just for the Kanto Pokemon. And in which you can get all the Mega Stones by purchasing them at the Indigo Plateau. There'll be an NPC next to the move relearner. He will sell you all of the Mega Stones. Other than the Kanto starter Mega Stones, because you earn those from Professor Oak like before you get to the 8th gym badge, so that's nice, and you can Mega Evolve your Pokemon whenever you get the Pokemon available. And I just remembered earlier on today I actually recorded an episode for the Master Trainers. I forgot to Mega Evolve my Not Mega Evolve my Venusaur for that battle. So, rip. But yeah, for those, when you take on the Master Trainers, after you obtain all 153 Master Trainer titles, you also have to earn one more by defeating Red. So that's 154 titles. If you head back to the Game Freak building in Celadon City, in the same office where you found the game director and Morimoto, there's one mark in the bottom left corner. If you talk to him, he'll actually allow you to change your current title to any of the other Master Trainer titles you have collected thus far. But if you collect all 154 of them, you'll be rewarded with the literal Master Trainer title, like you're the literal Master Trainer. So that's like the final thing to do in these games. So after going over everything I talked about, and let's go. Like, how long have I been talking anyway? Oh wow, 40 minutes of me rambling on. But yeah, that's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, guys. And I mentioned earlier that I give these games a rating of like 7.5. That's still pretty much the case. And the main reason why I'm talking about these games now is because I recently went back to playing these games because, well, I still have a backlog of Pokemon I transferred to the Go Park. I still need to capture and grind for the sake of getting their species candies taken care of, as, well, I'm still missing like half the Pokemon shiny, and I eventually want to get a shiny Living Dex, and I'm still hunting down the Kanto legendaries Pokemon in these games, in which a while back, last year, I finally managed to get shiny Articuno. I'm still missing Zapdos, Moltres, and Mewtwo. I plan to go after those sometime, hopefully soon. And currently on screen, Team Rocket. They're somewhat relevant in the story. I mean, they appear in different parts of the game. Although their experience is rather ruined in my opinion because Meowth doesn't actually talk or say anything. Like, he just gives his cry. Like, if he actually said, Meowth, that's right, then showing Jesse and James would have been more perfect. But these guys actually battle you in double battles throughout the course of the game. So, like, they'll literally sound like a coughing and an Ekans, in which you have to battle them in double battles. So that's a pretty cool callback. And you face them pretty frequently throughout the game. Like, I'm showing off like they're different moments here. And by the time you face them in the Celadon Celadon Hidden Hideout, I think they should already have their evolved forms of Coffee and Wheezing by then. But yeah, that pretty much just covers everything I wanted to say about these games. They're fun and all, but they can be rather tedious. Like, by the time I beat all the Master Trainers, and no, I beat them regularly. I did not want to shiny hunt everything at that point in time, but by the time I finally beat all the Master Trainers, it's gonna be a full month or so to finally getting through the entire game of doing what I wanted, and that was like 300 plus hours. So yeah, you can imagine how tedious this game can be if you really want to do things from start to finish. Oh yeah, one final thing I should note is that when you do battle against like static Pokemon, when you like talk to them in overworld like this with the Snorlax, you actually have to defeat them in battle now, in which they actually get their own separate battle music, which is very reminiscent to like the battle thing you heard from like Fire Red and Leaf Green, sort of wild battle. But then the fact you actually had to defeat them in battle before you can actually get to the catching animation is a rather nice touch. And these guys can be shiny hunted too. So if you want to go after like a shiny Snorlax, Electrode, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Mewtwo, go for it, because, well, once they're gone forever, so you may as well hunt them when you have the opportunity to do so. And while these games may not be perfect, like I said, they're all very fun. And I'd recommend them if you have time in your hands, although even though it's been like I said, like 5 years, but going on almost 6 now. Wait, sorry, 4 years. What am I thinking? 6 years? That's too long. These came out in 2018. But I've been talking for like almost getting close to an hour now. So yeah, these are my thoughts on these overall thoughts on these games. If you like this podcast, then drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then follow me on my social medias. Links will be in the description down below. And well, I guess I'll see you guys all around next time. Take care!